had gotten home from work about an hour earlier. Normally, after a long shift, my evening routine was automatic. Take a quick shower, eat something simple, and collapse on my bed to watch whatever was on TV until my eyes got too heavy to stay open. But that night, the sky looked wrong. On the drive home, I had seen clouds piling up, thick, black, swollen shapes that looked like they were crawling over each other, racing to get above the town. By the time I got inside, the storm hit with full force. A violent thunderstorm, the kind we maybe got once every few years. Lightning flashed so bright it lit up my whole bedroom, and the thunder sounded like it was cracking the sky in half. Wind screamed around the house, making the walls hum lightly. I tried to pretend I wasn't uneasy, but I was. Storms like that always made me feel like something was coming. I sat on my bed watching TV, the glow of the screen bouncing off the walls, trying to drown out the noise outside. But about 10 minutes later, a sound came from downstairs. A thud, quick and dull. Normally, I would have ignored it, blamed the wind or the storm shaking something loose. But a cold feeling bloomed in my stomach immediately, like my body knew something I didn't. Reluctantly, I got up and went downstairs. Every step felt heavier than the last. I checked the kitchen, the living room, the hallway. Everything was in place. Nothing fallen, nothing disturbed. I refilled my water bottle mostly to keep my hands busy and returned upstairs. I sat on the bed again, forcing myself to breathe normally. A few minutes passed. Then came another sound. This one I recognized instantly. It was the sound of my living room floor lamp crashing over. That lamp was wobbly, so wobbly I'd knocked it over more than a few times myself. But it had never fallen on its own, and especially not from minor vibrations. The storm was strong, yes, but it wasn't shaking the house enough to topple something inside. This time, fear crept under my skin like cold water. I went downstairs again. There it was, lying in the center of the room, not even close to where it should have been. Almost like someone had bumped straight into it. I picked it up, stood it back on its base, and just stared at it for a long second. Nothing felt right. I walked the entire lower floor again. Every room, every corner, every shadow. Nothing. I went back upstairs, but instead of turning the TV up, I turned it down. Almost all the way, leaving the faintest murmur, just so I wasn't sitting in silence. Maybe I wanted to listen, or maybe I was terrified of what I might hear. Nearly 45 minutes crawled by. I wasn't watching the TV anymore. I was staring at the ceiling, listening to the storm hammer the outside of the house. Then, something changed. The rain sounded wrong. Closer. Not outside the window, but somewhere inside the walls. I sat up slowly, listening carefully. The sound was unmistakable. Water hitting something very near. I opened my bedroom door. The noise was louder from the stairwell. It seemed to be coming from the lower floor again, with my heart thudding in my chest. I went downstairs and followed the sound to the end of the hallway near the kitchen, a small, narrow door that led to a storage closet I hadn't opened in months. Behind that door, the storm was roaring. I opened it. The closet window, the small one I never touched. The one that was usually stuck shut from age was wide open. Wind blasted through it, throwing sheets of rain into the room. Water was splashing down on boxes, pooling on the floor, dripping down the wall. My breath caught. I hadn't opened it. No one could have opened it from the outside without breaking it. And windows like that don't just swing open not without someone pulling hard. I slammed it shut, hands shaking. The thunder growled outside like something alive. Only then did I realize my phone was upstairs, and if someone had come in through that window, I was trapped downstairs with them between me and my phone. I moved quietly into the kitchen and grabbed my car keys. Then, trying not to make a sound, I began down the hallway toward the front door. I was halfway there when something happened that froze me where I stood. Footsteps. Above me. Directly above me. Not slow, cautious ones. Running, Fast. Heavy. Someone was sprinting down the hallway upstairs, toward the staircase. Toward me. Pure instinct took over. I lunged for the front door, yanked it open, and ran outside into the storm. Rain hit me so hard it stung, but I didn't dare look back. I sprinted to my car, unlocked it with shaking hands, and threw myself inside. As I started the engine, I heard the footsteps pounding down the stairs inside the house growing closer. Seconds behind me, I reversed out of the driveway so fast the tires squealed. Only when I hit the main road did I breathe. I called 911 through my card system. The police checked the house top to bottom, every closet, every attic crawl space, empty. But they did find something unusual. The wall in the closet with the open window shared the other side with the end table where my lamp had been standing. If someone had forced that old window open from inside the closet, the vibrations would have easily knocked over the lamp in the living room. No prints. No sign of forced entry other than the window being open. Nothing stolen. Nothing moved. Whoever had come in must have slipped upstairs and hidden, waiting for me to eventually fall asleep. Even now, months later, my house feels different at night. Sometimes I'll be lying in bed and swear I hear something shift somewhere in the darkness oft, like someone taking a single, careful step. And every time it storms, even lightly, I can't help but think about that night and wonder if someone is quietly waiting for the thunder again. I was working at a gas station back then, one of those small, lonely ones out on the edge of town. Most nights were slow, but every now and then, I'd get called in for an overnight shift. They paid overtime for it, so when my manager phoned that morning asking if I could cover from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., I accepted before he even finished the sentence. When I got in, the evening manager handed me the keys and half joked, "Good luck. Storm's supposed to be nasty tonight." At the time, the sky was only lightly spitting rain. But by the tone of his voice, I could tell it wouldn't stay that way. For the first hour, the station was dead. Not a single car pulled in. The fluorescent lights hummed above me, and the rain outside tapped gently against the windows. A calm before something much worse. After a while, I grabbed my raincoat and stepped out to bring in all the loose items outside the windshield squeegees, the trash lids, the small cardboard display someone had set up by the air pump. The wind picked up just as I stepped out, blowing cold rain sideways. I hurried, grabbing everything I could as I carried the last load toward the door. I noticed someone on the far side of the street. A man. He was pacing slowly in the rain. No umbrella, no jacket, just drenched head to toe. I figured he was waiting on someone, but the way he moved, slow, repetitive steps back and forth, something about it made me uneasy. Still, I didn't stare. I hurried back inside and locked the door behind me. 2 hours passed. The storm grew heavier by the minute. Lightning started flashing so frequently it looked like camera bursts in the sky. Thunder rolled hard enough to vibrate the floor under my feet. And then the wind slammed into the front doors with such force, I genuinely thought the glass would give out. The doors flew open, banging so violently against the wall that I screamed and nearly fell off my stool. Rain blasted inside. I rushed to the entrance and dragged the doors back into place, locking the bolt hard. The storm was monstrous now, like something alive, pounding and howling and tearing at the building. I decided it was safest to wait it out in the storage room at the back, away from the windows that trembled under the pressure of the wind. I sat back there for maybe 30 minutes, listening to the storm rage, louder and louder, like it was trying to pry the entire station open. Then, suddenly, through all that noise, I heard something. A banging. Not the wind. Not debris. Something rhythmic. Something deliberate. Someone was hitting the front doors. At first, I thought the storm was playing tricks on me. But after the second and third bang muffled but Unmistakably, I knew it was real. My stomach dropped. I crept out of the storage room and looked down the cell's floor. There was a figure outside, standing directly in front of the glass doors, pounding on them with both fists. I hurried forward and unlocked the door, thinking maybe they were stranded or hurt. As soon as the lock clicked, the man shoved the door open and stormed inside, dripping water everywhere. He didn't even look at me, didn't speak, didn't thank me, just walked straight past me with this slow, unnatural pace. I recognized him instantly. It was the same man I had seen pacing earlier across the street now, completely soaked, his clothes clinging to him like a second skin, water pooling beneath him with every step. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need help?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just kept pacing, back and forth, and he had the most hollow expression I'd ever seen, eyes blank, unfocused, like there was nothing behind them. I watched him for a minute, unsure what to do, feeling more uneasy with every second. Then I noticed his hands. His knuckles were split, open, bloody, bruised, scraped raw, like he'd been punching something or someone. The moment his eyes flicked toward me, catching me staring at his hands, his posture changed. His face tightened. "Don't," he said. Deep voice. Not yelling, just a warning. I slowly lowered the phone receiver I had lifted from the counter, careful not to make any sudden moves. For a few uneasy seconds, he just stared at me. The storm roared behind him like it was trying to break the building apart. Then, without another word, he resumed pacing, back and forth, and I stood there frozen, watching this dripping, injured man wander around inches from me, all the while thinking that at any moment he could snap. I considered running. I considered calling the police anyway. I considered trying to talk to him again, but fear kept me pinned. The storm outside was reaching a fever pitch now, wind rattling the doors, rain hammering the windows so hard it sounded like gravel. The lights flickered. Once, twice. I prayed they wouldn't go out. 20 agonizing minutes passed. 20 minutes of him pacing like a caged animal, while I stood motionless behind the counter. Finally, without warning, he stopped walking. He looked at me, one last time, expression unreadable. Then he walked to the doors, slid the bolt open, and stepped outside into the raging storm. He disappeared into darkness. The moment he was gone, I snatched the phone and called the police. It took them over 30 minutes to arrive properly because the storm had flooded half the roads by the time officers checked the area. The man had vanished. No footprints left in the puddles. No sign of him anywhere. The next morning, after the storm passed, a missing person report went out on the radio. A woman, last seen leaving her office at 11 p.m., never made it home. And all I could think about were his hands, the blood, the bruises, the blank stare. I don't know if the two events were related. I can't prove anything, but I know what I saw that night. I know the terror I felt. And sometimes, when storms roll in, even now, I get this awful feeling that the door might start shaking again, and that he might come walking out of the rain. A few years ago, right after finishing high school, my friends and I would often meet up at my place. Back then, I was the one with the most freedom. My parents didn't mind people coming and going, and my house was the one where everyone felt safe hanging out. One night, after a long online gaming session, two of my friends knocked on my door around 1 in the morning. They had been at a party, but didn't feel like going home yet, so they stopped by. We decided to stay there chatting for a bit. It was late, but the night felt calm. Outside, a quiet rain was falling, the tail end of a small storm that had passed earlier. After a while, one of them said, "Shall we head out? We'll pass by first, and if you want, you can join us tomorrow morning for breakfast." They left, and I locked the door. I climbed the stairs to my room, ready to wind down. I wasn't tired enough to sleep, so I sat at my desk and put my headphones on. I hadn't even pressed play on my music when I heard something. Footsteps in my house. I froze. For a second, I thought maybe my friends had come back because they forgot something, but the door was still locked. I hadn't heard it open. The footsteps were slow, careful, moving across the living room, exactly beneath my feet. I lifted my headphones off. The rain outside seemed too quiet, as if the world wanted me to hear better. Then I heard the creak of the floorboards. Footsteps approaching the stairs. Step, step, step. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands. I dialed my friends immediately, whispering, "Come back. Someone is inside my house." They thought I was joking until they heard the panic in my voice. "Don't move. We're coming." I stood by my bedroom door, holding the handle to keep it shut, even though it was already locked. The footsteps reached the landing, right outside my room. Then they stopped. For 10 whole seconds, there was nothing but silence and the light tapping of rain against the windows. Suddenly, someone pounded on my door, once, hard enough to shake the frame. I jumped back, heart pounding loud enough that I could barely hear anything else. Then, nothing, not a sound. Whoever it was had vanished. My friends arrived less than a minute later, banging on the front door. I ran downstairs to let them in. We searched every room together, closets, hallway, under the staircase, even the basement. There was no one, but there was something on the floor near the back window. A window none of us ever opened was a wet footprint, just one, bare, as if someone had stepped inside from the rain and then disappeared into the house. We called the police. They checked every corner, every exit, every possible hiding spot. Nothing to this day. We still talk about that night, about those slow, deliberate footsteps, about the knock at my door, about the single footprint that shouldn't have been there. And sometimes, when it rains at night, especially when the storm gets close, I swear I can hear the creaking of those same floorboards. Someone walking, someone waiting,